My story can be divided into three phases. It's a story of happiness, it's a story of utter disappointment, and it's a story of immense awakening. Fast forward, at the age of 12, I made a very important decision in my life. A middle child, I went on to being the only child. So this lady I can never forget in my life. And finally, the one question that she asked me, which has never left me to this day. I don't believe anyone is better than the other. And that is when the second turn happened. Destiny chooses a path for you. So I started working. 2 hours went to 4 hours, 4 hours went to 8 hours, 8 hours stretched to 12 hours at times. Entered another man in my life. That broke me more than probably the first time around. I was shattered, I was disappointed, I was lied to, I was betrayed. Again, as destiny chooses it for you. That program changed me 360 degrees. Family members cheating you, your relatives cheating you, managing the court cases that were around me, I did it all. So now over to stage 3. And I had no one to talk to. Even if you don't have a clear goal, you should have a path in mind. All 4 pillars are so important. Hello everyone, my name is Navneet Sandhu, and today I'm here to tell you about my story. My story can be divided into 3 phases. There's a story of happiness, it's a story of utter disappointments, and it's a story of immense awakening. So let me take you through the different phases. Stage number 1, happiness, childhood. I was born into an army family. The atmosphere was wonderful. I was the middle child, and I loved every moment of my childhood. Very protected, but very flexible, very adaptable, as all service kids are. And I didn't realize at that time, but there were things being built into the character that would come handy later on in life. Fast forward, at the age of 12, I made a very important decision in my life. My real Masi used to stay abroad. She was in Canada and they didn't have any children. So they approached me to be adopted because I was very close to her right from the beginning. And my parents left pretty much the decision up to me at age 12. And that was the first leadership ability that I demonstrated. I thought, okay, why not? You know, a 12-year-old way back, Canada was like paradise. This I'm talking way back in 1984, 83, 84. And so I got adopted, and that's how I went abroad. So being a middle child, I went on to being the only child. Believe me, it was bliss. There was a whole world to be discovered, and it was just happiness all around. In hindsight, I realize again that I have always been a very curious person. So I was very curious about finding out about life, what are the different experiences, what makes people tick, what makes me tick. So I went on that discovery phase. And the first shift here came when I went into my first year university at the University of Western Ontario in London, Ontario. And everyone over there is given an academic counselor when you choose your subjects. So this lady I can never forget in my life, she asked me very nicely, my dear, do you have any idea what you want to do with your life? And I very confidently, without even batting an eyelid, went, of course, I know, I want to be a medical doctor. And a lot of you can probably relate to that because in India, you know, boys need to go into engineering and girls need to go into medicine is the given thing, especially in my generation it was. And so, you know, she had a very nice conversation with me, and she said, what makes you so sure? And I said, well, I've always dreamt of being a doctor ever since I was young, so I just know it. And so in talking to me, she said, what about medicine interests you, etc., etc. And finally, the one question that she asked me, which has never left me to this day, and she looked right at my eyes and she said, who in your family wants you to be a doctor? And that was the question that changed me up here. And I started reflecting. And I said, really, is it my dream or am I living my mother's dream, or my father's dream, or the family's dream, right? So slowly, I guess wisdom stuck in, and I went on eventually to do a mixed degree in arts and science, which I'm very happy about because it exposed me to a whole plethora of subjects that I would have never taken after the first year had I not had that conversation with this lady here. So fast forward a little further, and then came the age to get married. And as was very common again at that time, there weren't too many matches in that part of the world. So the parents decided to get me married to someone from India, which I agreed on. Why, don't ask me. Now I think it was a mistake, but I went ahead with it. There was a lot of difference. His way of upbringing, my way of upbringing, his way of thinking, my way of thinking, his way of problem solving, my way of problem solving, his way of decision making, my way of decision making. I'm not saying one was better than the other, I'm just saying it was different. Okay? I don't believe anyone is better than the other, I just believe we are different. And the sooner we realize it, the better it is for all of us. So I had a son with him, and I was very happy. And then somewhere in all this, my adoptive father fell sick. He had cancer, and my son was only about 6 months old when my adopted father passed away. And that is when the second turn happened. I realized this marriage is going nowhere. We tried to make it work, but eventually it didn't work. I was okay with that. I was a little heartbroken, a little shattered, but I was quite okay. By that time, my family had decided to move back to India because dad wasn't there and mom couldn't help be by herself. So we decided to come back here as the rest of the family was all here. So we moved back to India. I had a little baby in my arms. And believe me, I was very joyful. I thought, I'll go back to India and finally I'll have nothing to do. I'll also enjoy like the rest of the women and keep some help on my son and just enjoy life in general. Right? Remember, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person right from the beginning. So that happened, and for a little bit, but destiny chooses a path for you. In my case, at least it did. I didn't choose it for me. Somebody or something chose it for me. So what happened is I was sitting very nice in my place, and somebody we knew gave me a call, and they said, do you mind working for a little bit? And I said, what is the work? And they said, the BPO sector is coming up in India and they need accent trainers and you are a perfect fit. And I was a pretty good fit. And so my mother also coaxed me, go, do something with, with your days. Your son is looked after, don't worry about it. So that is when I started discovering the skills I had. So I started working, 2 hours went to 4 hours, 4 hours went to 8 hours, 8 hours stretched to 12 hours at times. But I went through that phase and I started enjoying that phase. Well, things moved along and entered another man in my life. And I was on top of the world and I was like, good, this is going to work out. Well, guess what? That also didn't work out. That broke me more than probably the first time around. I was shattered, I was disappointed, I was lied to, I was betrayed, was highly, highly disappointed. That was the low of my life. And so I sat there, and at that time my son was about 10, 12 years old. And I said, okay, what do you want to do with your life now? Do you want to swallow and wallow in your pity? Or do you want to really get up and make a difference? Now, I come from a family where the women in my family are extremely strong. They are tough women. I'm talking about my grandmother, I'm talking about my great-grandmother, I'm talking about both of my mothers. Very, very tough women, even my sister. So I said, okay, well, it's not the end of the world. I can pick up the pieces and I can go. The only problem was I was lagging a little behind because my classmates or people my age were already 10 years or so into their careers. So I said, okay, so what can I do? So the very first decision I made is I want to finish my MBA. I went for my executive MBA. I finished that. I was a single mother once again because I was just not a single mother for a very short period of time. And then I said, okay, what do I want to do next? The ability that I started discovering in myself, which was already there from childhood, was the ability to speak, the ability to express, the ability to confidently put your your expressions across. So I said, okay, why not? And as it is, I had already become a trainer in the BPO industry. So why not take it further? Again, as destiny chooses it for you. So I was still contemplating what should I do and what should I not do. And a friend of mine calls me and she says, listen, do you want to join hands and do something together? And I said, yeah, why not? Let's do it.